So I, along with my normal content, am running a whole bunch of MazdaSpeed content. If it does well, you know, good likes, good subscriber growth, then I'll continue doing it, and there's still more to come. Now today, we've got a mod guide to the MazdaSpeed 3, how to get to X amount of horsepower. This is strictly engine mods only. Now there will be another one which is supporting mods and other non-engine mods, so I'd recommend watching both of them because you know I'll be running 400 wheel with stock mode amounts. They'll be up on the top right corner now if it's released, or will be coming in the future. So let's get into it. So first of all, I just need to talk about the Cobb access port. Well, you know, there's also VersaTune and all that, but everyone seems to use a Cobb access port. Now you will need that because this is what you'll use to upload your tunes onto your car. So what will happen is that a tuner such as FreakTune send you an eTune and you'll have to upload it through your Cobb access port. It is quite necessary, but also you should definitely have one because it has a whole bunch of gauges of important stuff like your boot, your AFRs, inlet temperatures, knock correction, and all that good stuff. Also has some stuff, you know, you can set launch control and all that. Also has a whole bunch of OTS or off-the-shelf tunes. These are not supplements for a pro tune. They're supplements for nothing. What I mean is if you've got intake, oh, I'm not going to tune it, I'm not going to get a tune, it's better to have an OTS than nothing, but it's not a replacement for pro tuning. But yeah, still good to have. And now that we know that, let's go on to some power mods. First of all, just a simple intake can get you to 280 crank or 250 wheel. Now these Speed 3s have 263 crank, 235 wheel stock, so that's a pretty good gain for an intake. Next, we got to add in high pressure fuel pump internals. You have to take this away from me. High pressure fuel pump internals are very important. Without them, you may go zoom zoom boom, the engine will not be able to get enough petrol, and yeah, zoom zoom boom, it's not fun. Get it, it's very important. You don't want to be that guy. We also got to now get a Catless Downpipe, and this will get us to 300 wheel and 340 crank, there or thereabouts, with a good tune. Tuners, this is another part, along with the high pressure fuel pump, and this thing about tuners is the two things you definitely take away from this. You need a good tuner. You know someone who knows about MazdaSpeeds a lot. These are cars that you really have to know how to mod in order to mod them without them blowing up. And if you do it right, they won't blow up. They're actually pretty reliable if you know what you're doing. Much like a tuner has to know what he's doing. Someone like FreakTune is really good, probably the best in the game. There's also other really good people like Justin Heath over in the UK. But you know, it doesn't really matter because e-tuning you can live wherever you want. So next one we gotta modify, we gotta get in an intercooler, one-step holder plugs, a blow-off valve because the stock one can tend to leak boost, a catch can to, you know, make our power more reliable, and a catback exhaust. Pair this with E85 and you'll be at 335 wheel or 375 crank. That's pretty good with a stock turbo. Now with the catch can, this would be something personally I'd do early, you don't have to, but with strictly direct injected engines, there's no injectors sending fuel through the intake manifold, and on the valves this means that the valves can get covered in stuff like carbon, oil, and that can harm the longevity of your engine and the amount of power it can make. So by having a catch can, it'll get a lot of the oil and all that out of the intake, which means less of it goes on your valves, and you can make more power, your engine will last longer. If you are enjoying, please drop a like and subscribe, also that means you'll probably continue getting that MazdaSpeed content. Now, without E85, you may live in a country like the UK, don't really have that much E85 available, so to get that 335 wheel, you'll need a big turbo. Any GT30R really, BNR S4, S3, a Cork Sport Turbo, CST4 are good turbos and you can push them a little bit further. Yeah, and come with a big turbo, you need a boost solenoid and a map sensor, and yeah, like I said, 335 wheel, 375 crank. Now you still don't have E85, but we want to get to the most without E85 and aux fueling. You're going to have to get an intake manifold, ported and polished, butterfly delete, then you also get a VTC delete and injector seals. This is good for about 390 crank and 350 wheel. Now say you can do all that and you do have E85, you have the intake, the high pressure fuel pump, the downpipe, the intercooler, spark plugs, blow-off valve, catch can, catback, turbo, boost solenoid, map sensor, intake manifold, injector seals and VTC delete, and then with E85 that sounds like a lot, but you'll be at 380 wheel horsepower and 420 crank. This is about the highest we can go without aux fueling. At that mark, like I said, we're pushing the limits of the stock fueling. Our engine, to make more power, we need more fuel, but here's the thing, the stock injectors can't get that much fuel through them. So just replace the injectors in. Well no, on a MazdaSpeed 3, direct injected, and because it's MazdaSpeed 3, you can't replace the injectors. Here's the thing, then we can add in some aux fueling. The cheaper route will be something like a water meth kit. You'll have a fuel cell and they'll run into a nozzle in the engine bay by the throttle body, which will spray some water meth into there, and you get more petrol into the engine. And also meth is very cold, it will cool down your inlet temperatures, which is good. And with a higher octane petrol like meth, you can then run more timing safely. There's also other ways of ox fueling. The best way that you could do it, and also the most expensive, this is so you can get really massive power port injection. So what's going to happen there then is we'll attach 4 injectors to our intake manifold, and they're either got to be getting fuel from a fuel cell or our fuel tank. If we do use our fuel tank, we're going to need an upgraded drop-in fuel pump, and you know, you're going to have a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to need to add to the system. Or you could then do it from a fuel cell, and you'll need a whole bunch of lines, fuel pump, filters, and all that. I'll drop a video below of someone called Spooling Up Performance, another MazdaSpeed YouTuber, and he's showing his setup when he used to have a speed 3 of his full port injection. Port injection, unlike the water meth, you can run basically whatever you want, you know, you can't run chocolate sauce or something. But you can run, you know, E85 or meth, or 93 octane, or, you know, over here in New Zealand, 98 octane. Quick word, 98 over here and 93 in the US is actually the same. Different rating scales, yeah. And then there's also 5th and 6th port, which sort of sits in the middle. It works just like port injection basically, but instead of having 4 injectors, we have 1 or 2, and they then sit by the throttle body. I'm not sure how I feel about it. There is advantages over the water meth, but they're quite minor, and setting up's way more complicated, it costs more. Honestly, if you're wanting to stick, you know, 500 wheel, maybe a bit more or less, I'd get water meth. If you want to do more, just go full port injection. But it's your choice, you can do whatever you like. And yeah, so adding on to 400 wheel, so we've got the ox fueling, we're also going to get EGR delete, and a balance shaft delete, and a watt box. Those 3 mods, you could do them later. In fact, it's probably better to do them later, but you definitely need them for this. And also at this amount, depending on your mileage, you may probably need a clutch. And that's about the limits of the stock internals, while still being pretty reliable. But remember, good tuner, boys. Now here's the thing, the limiting factor isn't actually the horsepower. Horsepower doesn't kill an engine, torque does. And the limit on these engines is about 400 wheel torque, not necessarily the amount of horsepower. So to do this, you can either get a bigger turbo that spools up later, since peak torque usually happens around the middle of the RPM band, or, you know, low end. By having our power come in later, then we're going to be running less torque. Or another way then is to just get the mapper to lower the wastegate duty cycle down low, so that then we don't go above the 400 wheel torque down low. And that's sort of the limit, reliably, for these stock internals. 400 wheel horsepower, 400 wheel torque, and a good tuner, okay, a good tuner. Now you may want more. 400 wheel torque will give you a whole bunch of torques there, but you're crazy, aren't you? You want 500. Yeah, quite a big turbo, forged bottom end, you know, your rods, your piston, an exhaust manifold. Heaps of people just use eBay ones. You can do that early if you don't really need to, but you could. Definitely a clutch, 100% a clutch, and a ported head. Then you'll be in that 500 wheel range. Now if you want even more power than that, I could just keep on going until we get to 800 or 10 million. Because, you know, that's a lot of power in a front wheel drive car. If you did enjoy, please drop a like and subscribe for more MazdaSpeed content. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.